Welcome to IGN at Gamescom Now. I'm Brian Altano, this is Max Scoville, and this is the biggest video game convention in the world, and we're covering it all week long. This is day 4. Max, what's coming up today?
Whole lot going on, including up next, we got Rock of Ages 3, getting the ball rolling with that. Get it? Good. It's a big ball. And then there's Waylanders, and then there's Dark Envoy, and there's lots more besides that as well.
IGN's nonstop coverage of Gamescom Now begins, well, now?
Yeah, I think we're late, actually.
Let's go. Should be now. Yeah, we're late.
Keep watching. We're gonna go do the thing.
Don't go anywhere.
All right.
Thanks. Gamescom 2019, the heart of gaming and the biggest video game convention on planet Earth. Over 370,000 hardcore video game fans. One building. Over 1,000 video game exhibitors from more than 50 video game loving countries. Gamescom 2019 is here, and IGN is covering it all with 5 full days of non-stop video game reveals, trailers, exclusive gameplay footage, interviews, show floor booth tours, and more. Day 4 of Gamescom 2019 is here, and we're not gonna lie, we drank a little too much Kolsch last night. Kolsch is a type of local German beer that comes in tiny glasses, so you can drink like 30 of them, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but boy do they creep up on you. Anyway, we've had big coffees, we're feeling great, and we're ready to continue our non-stop exclusive coverage of Gamescom 2019. The biggest games, the hottest trailers, the best gameplay on Earth, and those adorable, cute little beers that sneak up on you hard. IGN Live at Gamescom begins right now.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom Now. Joining me now, I've got Robert and Lucas from Warsaw here to talk about Giants Uprising, and here is my small friend Brian Altano.
Hello, thanks for calling me that.
So this is a game, as the title would suggest, about Giants Uprising, and then doing what Giants do, which is to go in and smash some villages. Tell me a little bit about it, please.
We call Giant Uprising as a hack and crash game. So definitely there are elements of RPG in our game. So you have your giant that you may add some features to the giant. You may craft your weapons to the giant. But mostly the gameplay is about like crushing everything that you see around. This is a location that we have here for Gamescom to test how people react on our game. So this is the first time we are showing the game. And we've got a village, there is a giant. We have to, our mission with this small demo is to crash the city, crash the village, and to win a battle with a giant that is a giant that people forced and closed in a area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I like this because it's such a it's a fantasy to go in and smash a bunch of stuff. Like it feels like being a little kid and knocking over a bunch of blocks. I think some people might be concerned about this being like too easy. Like being a giant seems great. You can just go and crash everything. What kind of a challenge will you offer to players to keep them from being like too powerful?
This is very beginning of the game, first of all. So everything is easy. The idea behind the Giant Uprising is that even if you are big, like the Titan, it doesn't mean that everything comes easy. Because, for example, the enemies are hard to spot. You are a very good target. There are some limitations connected with the environment. When you hit the swamps or the moving sands, you are a very, very heavy guy, so you are going down very, very quickly. When you try to pass the mountain pass that was built by humans for humans, you are too big to fit there. So, so you have to find your way to move through the levels, not only by crashing stuff, but also discovering the strategy and tactics for it. And to say something more, what Lucas mentioned, the game is not about destroying for the sake of destroy. There is the giants have real reason to start a new war with the humans. So this is a story behind it.
I feel like for a very long time in various cultures throughout history, people respected and feared giants, and they thought they were real, and then that just kind of stopped happening. Why did you guys decide to make a game about this specific mythical person, man?
Because there is no such game. Like, there are games that you are a human and you have a boss that is a giant.
Right.
You have to fight with a giant. There is no reference game. There is no such game that you are a giant and you are the good guy and people are the bad guys. In our story that Robert wrote for the game, the people, there was a pact between people and giants, and people broke the pact. So giants have to rescue the race of giants because people forced them to go out from the land that they had before. So this is completely different perspective, and that's one of the reasons why we did the game, because the motto of the company is games from different perspective. We seek for ideas for games that don't have any representation in the computer games industry, and that's our idea. So we seek for good ideas without reference, and we try to do it the highest possible quality to be on the market.
So you saw a lack of games where giants beat up cities, and you're like, we're going to make one of these. I love that.
Why not?
I respect that.
Like I'm the old style guy. I played computer games for 30 years now, and I remember the times that you played games like I played all kind of games, and most of the games on the market are a copy of something. Like you've got mechanics that we use many times in many games.
Yep.
And most of the mechanics that we've got in this game, in our previous games of Bee Simulator, don't have any reference. You don't have possibility to have that kind of experience in any other game. That's one of the reasons why we try to have it.
So this is a giant, but he's not like really giant. Like you picked a specific size for this giant. What made you land on how big you wanted to make him instead of making him, 5,000 feet tall or something, just having a foot stomping on everything?
Then it won't be like there won't be any balance. There won't be any possibility to balance it. Like we use people, we use magicians in the game, so people and like ballistas and that kind of stuff that people have to defend the city. So definitely there is a balance. When you this is our way of playing, but like most of the people try different strategies how to play our game, and that's good. Like they try different ways of going through. This is a early prototype of a game. Like we still develop the game, but we wanted to test it on Gamescom with people to have feedback in which direction it's the best way to go. And we see like huge amount of people want to play the game because it's like, okay, it's completely different than.
Can we talk about what's happening
I'm
here?
sorry, yeah, you're
Move
a giant.
over Death Stranding. Here comes the other game where
yes,
you can be on some stuff.
It's
I think that's the theme of Gamescom, is pissing on stuff.
I'm into it.
For now, in this demo, we've got 3 giants. We've got 10 of them in our game right now already. Though they are different in mechanics, they've got different skills that you may use to build a strategy by playing different giants and by playing the game in different ways. We've got many creative ideas how to expand the game, but we want to ask the players, like, do our way of like early access before even starting to sell a game. Just give us feedback, what we think about like the idea that we've got, and we'll do the game that you like.
Now, you actually had a giant come by your booth. Is that right?
Yeah, that was extremely funny that on our booth there was a giant, like a huge guy, 210 centimeters big, that like a giant playing a giant's game.
Here's a photo of him right here.
Wow.
This is definitely the best moment of Gamescom that we've had with, and he was also playing the game and he liked it. So like
that's good.
Oh, good.
Giant
it's definitely
tested, giant approved.
what we wanted to have.
Did he give you any notes or ideas?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Like he's a reference player, yeah, for us.
There he is, right there. This is
Yeah.
one of my favorite photos I've ever seen in my life.
Man,
honestly,
that is Gamescom right
yeah,
there.
that's Gamescom the photo.
Now, let's talk about Bee Simulator. That seems pretty much like a sort of a different direction from Giants. Like, how did you go from a game about bees to a game about giants?
Once again, different perspective. There's no reference game. Why there's no bee game? Like two years ago, I asked myself that question. Like I've been reading a book about bees to my daughter, and I thought, ready scenario for a computer game. I checked. There is no that kind of game. So once again, why not doing it? Let's try. So I managed to gain a 5 people prototype team that made a prototype of this game. We showed it 5 months later on Tokyo Game Show 2017. And the amount of people that wanted to play a simple prototype of just flying a bee was huge. The amount of questions, what will be in the final game, were amazing. So we made the decision to make a full-scale game from Bee Simulator, not just a simulator. We've got gameplay, we've got two sides of the game, so easy mode and hard mode that is dedicated, the easy mode to kids, the hard mode is dedicated to adult players with different mechanics. Not only that it's harder to play, you've got different mechanics. We know that hardcore players need something else than children, and I think that we balance the game so that it's interesting both for kids and for adults, what is very uncommon in computer games. We also have local split-screen multiplayer mode, and we also think about it in Giants Uprising. Why? Because the old times, I like the old times, like you played on one couch, playing together, having emotions together. I also like online games, but
just like this.
Why
That's
not having emotions together with parents with children, for example? The same with Giants Uprising. I think that those games will be definitely games that parents will play with children. And why not? Let's have of course, Bee Simulator have small elements of education also, so it's like a game that is fully safe for children. Giants Uprising, you smash people, you smash villages, maybe a little bit a level of violence, but even though we don't have blood in Giants Uprising also. So those games are definitely the idea of different games.
Well, it's also like a kid knows what a bee is and a kid knows what a giant is. There's something very pure about that. It's
Now, are there any giant bees in Giants Uprising?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, but
I must say that I like Easter eggs. And definitely that's my answer for your question.
So one of the things I notice as the giant goes through the city and plunders and destroys, things turn into meat. Are those like big hams?
Yeah.
And so
for example, sheep's
he trampled the whole thing of sheep's and it just turned into a big. Just like a tornado of floating hams.
Yes.
Does he do that to eat? Does he ever get full?
To gain the HP. Yeah.
Oh, to gain HP. Okay, cool.
So,
we don't eat people.
You don't eat people?
No. He doesn't eat
There's
people.
just hams in those houses.
Yes, that's right. Everybody has 60, 50, hams inside their home at any given moment.
No, some buildings are like buildings for the ships.
Now, are there going to be there are other giants or multiple giants? I'm sure. Are there going to be other giants that you encounter in the game? Perhaps.
It's a part of the story that when you start the game, you discover that the people they find a way to enslave giants and use them as their own defenders. So going from the level to the level, you will find giants that will be fighting with you as the bosses, but your goal is to free them. And when you will free them, you will be able to play with this particular giant later.
Now, I have to ask you, we just saw it again, and this is just a spectacle for me. The giant urination, is that just to be mean? Is there a game for him to pee? Is that is there a mechanic around that, or is he just being a nuisance?
We use it in gameplay.
Oh, good.
Of course, we use it in gameplay as an element of gameplay. For example, when you pee to
a good guess. I like that.
You may pee like you've seen to a lake, and then people, when they will drink the water from the lake, they will die.
or they just won't drink it. Just then they will be without water. So this is also the way how to deal with the village without making destruction, just like cut them resources.
We are creative.
So in Giants Uprising, you can pee in the lake, and then the people drink it and die. Game of the year.
I'm into it. And also, you can throw trees at hot air balloons.
You may use trees like a weapon. You may use elements of buildings as a weapon. You may craft yourself a weapon, like a real weapon, but you may throw things like
discus.
Yeah, discus.
Oh, nice.
This feels like the kind of game a kid would make in the best way. This is kind of unbridled imagination, and I'm really into it. And it's nice to see you guys doing something new like this. When are you expecting to launch?
So we expect the launch around definitely 2020. We don't have a release date like a strict one. Around the mid-2020, definitely the game will be the next steps of the game.
Well, I mean, you brought it to Gamescom to show it off to people, and that's awesome. Thank you for showing it off to us. We have lots more here at Gamescom. We got to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, did you hear about the new Marvel news?
No, what happened? No. What happened? Hey, what happened? Tell me. Has this ever happened to you? Good news! It doesn't have to! The Daily Fix is here every day with a concentrated dose of all that gaming, movie, TV, streaming, internet, and puppy news you need to survive the work week. All right, so puppy news isn't on it yet, but I'm working on it. Roll the thing!
Reggie Fils-Aimé is retiring.
Eagle-eyed fans are combing through every last frame.
I can't prepare.
Oh.
Stay right here on IGN.
And keep it locked to IGN.
IGN Now. New news that's new to you. Introducing the all-new Up It News.
Don't touch it.
What's wrong with you?
Get corn snack.
Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up at Noon. Weekends on IGN and YouTube.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom. Now, Rock of Ages 3 is about a giant, hilarious wrecking ball destroying the Earth. Here to tell us more is Andres and Juan Pablo from GMR. Thank you guys so much for coming, and my good friend Max.
Hey, what's up?
A man who loves balls.
Yeah. What?
Okay.
You can't just start the interview like that.
Yeah, we got him. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming. This game looks super funny. It's got a great sense of humor. But one of the big new angles in this game this time around is the custom level making.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's going on with that?
Yeah. So we're super excited because this game, for the first time, it enables people to start building their own levels. And that's something super unique because the game already features so many game modes, so many approaches from playing with Boulder, as you can see here. So we're really looking forward to giving the users something with which they can experiment, they can, I don't know, just simply do crazy stuff.
Right.
Now this is, I was playing a bit of the previous one, and I love that it lets you can do the sort of the battle mode, you know, where you're scoring off against someone, and there's the level of sort of RTS to go with it. But then there's also sometimes it's an obstacle course, and it's just going to be like a silly, weird race in a physics sandbox. Have you seen sort of is there a balance of both of those in the custom creation stuff?
Sure. It really comes down to the user what they want to do, because actually you can build levels that are more focused on specific parts or tailored toward the strategy portion of the game, or you can focus on the action part. So if you're making an obstacle course level, maybe you're making this weird map that has only exploding barrels, and you can do a domino effect. So it's really up to the users.
Have you seen sort of users play favorites and what kind of stuff they want to make, or is it really just kind of whatever they're into?
Well, at this point, I mean, we haven't released it to the public yet, so all the experimentation we've done is internally in the studio. But at this point, we've already handed it to the different people directly at Ace Team, and they've already produced some really wild concepts. And it's really easy, and there's no effort in creating these maps, so we really anticipate that the community will have a blast and create some really unique stuff.
We are having our bets for the cannons and the trampolines. Every time we show those, people have a blast and they see, oh, cool, and wow, and yeah, it's been very fun to demo the game too.
Because that's when things start to get really crazy. Now, from Marble Madness to Super Monkey Ball, the giant rolling ball genre in video games has sort of kind of endured the test of time. Why do you think people are drawn to this? Is it like the simplicity of it, the childlike wonder of just rolling a ball down a hill?
Yeah, when we created the first game, it was immediately after Xenoclash, which was a little bit more niche, was targeted towards specific markets. And we wanted to make something a little bit more casual, which people could connect immediately. And we were always looking for stuff to bring into the game that we're not commonly seeing in the video game industry. The Python sense of humor made total sense because, as you can see there, we have a giant cheese wheel rolling.
This is one of my favorite characters from Skyrim.
Yeah, and nothing can ever go bad with cheese. So
right, yeah.
And there's a face on it too.
So why not? And this quirky design and all this cool stuff that it enabled us to do. So yeah, we were just having a blast with it, and it made total sense to continue exploring this route with further iterations of the game.
So we've seen this. Is that a boulder or a meatball?
That's a meatball because we have the giant, the flying spaghetti monster as one of the creatures that you're going to get to play with.
So you guys have spaghetti, you have meatballs, you have cheese. You also have, I believe that was like a. Was that like a ball of sheeps at the beginning?
Yeah.
What the hell was that? Ball of sheeps?
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
Is that like a sheep king, like a rat king, but with sheep?
Yeah, it's a bunch of sheep because it's based on one of the myths from the Odyssey, where Odysseus has to escape like a cave.
Yeah.
And they do that by getting under the sheep. I think this is in the book.
That is. Yeah, where they sneak out of the Cyclops cave, right?
Yeah, the Cyclops.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so I love that you've got, this looks like the silliest, most nonsensical game in the world, but it is somehow miraculously actually rooted in history and art.
Yeah, well, it has a little bit of everything.
It's a super sheep ball, but it's also a Homeric reference, so that's...
This is based on real historic battles.
Yeah. Not that historically accurate.
I'm not saying it's historically accurate, but if you were like, what's that? I would not be like, yeah, that's from the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Possibly.
You also have Humpty Dumpty in there, one of my favorite historical figures.
Yeah,
can you talk about sort of the different behaviors of the meatball versus the sheep ball versus Humpty Dumpty?
Journalism.
Yeah, I don't know. Juan Pablo, you played a little bit with Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah. So Humpty Dumpty, for instance, is one of our characters that are super fragile because it's an egg, obviously. So we have created like a special mode in which the Humpty Dumpty levels are more like a platformer. Instead of smashing and rolling against everything, you need to carefully be around the obstacles and all that stuff. So the cool thing about this game is that it's giving so much flexibility to us and through the editor to the public that you can really create, I don't know, races or platforming games or I don't know what. That's the cool thing. We are really thrilled and really excited to get this to the hands of the players and see what they are going to make. We're really wondering about
And this is coming to PC, right?
Yeah, PC and consoles, simultaneous launch.
Will there be mod support on PC?
So one of the cool things about the level editor is it's actually the same tool we're using to make the campaign.
Oh.
So if we're not happy with something about the level editor, we're going to keep on expanding it, and we want that full power, the extent of the power of the level editor to hand it to the community. So we can anticipate that there's going to be like some really wild creations that we didn't even anticipate could be made. For let's say someone makes a level where a cannon shoots into another cannon, and Steam Workshop is probably going to be integrated, so it makes total sense.
That's great to hear. Now, we're not allowed to do like FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer interviews because we always joke about asking the developers, why don't they make a mode where the ball is a cube or a pyramid? But that's a question that actually kind of works here. Have you ever tried something for one of the boulders that just didn't work? Like it was like too weird of a shape or too lopsided?
Well,
is that, yeah.
Yeah, we actually have the Block of Ages here. That's a returning favorite from Rock of Ages 2, and it was also featured in Rock of Ages 1. And actually, in the first game, it was kind of a silly addition. I think it was an April Fool's edition. I can't remember. And when we were making the second game, we were thinking, how can we make a cube compete with the other rocks? And we got some cool ideas. It's like overpowered. Actually, at a certain point, the Block of Ages was so overpowered that when we were testing it with the QA team, they were starting to really beat us in all the levels using that block. So you can definitely try out some really weird stuff. I guess we haven't tried a pyramid at this point.
So in terms of those designs and those pitches, how does that work? Does somebody come into the studio hungover and go like, I want to make a cheese wheel, I want to make a lamb ball?
The cheese wheel is actually a request from the community. It's one of the fan favorites. We're really connecting a lot with the community, hearing what they want to see. Some come from the design team. I mean, at this point, I think we're starting to run out of ridiculous spheres to include into the game.
and the cool thing is that this is a collaboration between two studios, like Ace Team and GMR. And so when we are on the team developing something, sometimes Andres, as directing the design, comes with an idea, and then our team say like, hey Andres, but why don't we, I don't know, make the fist like get more power as he rolls, and then stomp the floor and make more energy and damage or whatever, and oh, cool, good idea. So we are kind of designing on the run some of the stuff, and it's pretty cool because we are having a fun testing this, beating each other. We did like an initial contest between the two studios, and they destroyed us. Given their experience on the two first games, but now we are expecting to beat them up at the end of the development because now we will understand how this goes.
Yeah, there's a rematch in the future.
It sounds like you guys have a really wonderful time just making stuff and getting weird and screwing around. It's great that you're giving that kind of opportunity for the community to join in. Will there be the opportunity to make new game modes or make new boulders for fans or players?
Well, you can customize the boulders with different paint decals, stuff like that. We're trying to add like a big variety of boulders that have different functions, different stats, like double jump. Some have more power, have more inertia. So you can't directly like configure the boulders, but we've always kept a close eye to what the community is asking for, and if there's some crazy idea that someone has and the community wants to see it, we'll definitely consider including it to the game.
Have you guys done any testing of like actual real boulder physics in the wild?
That's a weird question, but I have a partial answer for that.
Good.
So when we were making the second game, we were thinking of some cool ideas to like market the game, and we were thinking, what if we could make like a massive like rock and sculpt the face on it, and try to roll it down a hill and start breaking stuff. And in the end, we didn't decide doing it because it was too dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
I'm glad you made that choice, but that would have been a pretty good like live action trailer.
Yeah, I've seen in like Looney Tunes where they start with a giant snowball and it rolls down the hill.
Yeah.
And it's big enough to take over a whole town.
Yeah. So well, it was a great idea, but I would have loved to see it, but it didn't happen.
Comedy influence is obviously Monty Python, huge one here. Is there any other specific stuff from comedy history that has inspired this game?
I think for the most part, it's still Monty Python. We were big Python fans all the way along. Since we were kids, we were watching the show. So whenever we're looking for new characters to add in, we're looking like researching a little bit of the history, seeing what kind of like known facts people know, and kind of twisting that into the little sequences so people can relate to the characters. It's super fun to see a match and see what kind of avatars the people are choosing. So yeah, for the most part, it's Python.
All right. And when can people play the game?
It's coming early next year. Still haven't locked down a specific date, but it's coming.
And PC and consoles and stuff,
yeah,
right?
PC and all consoles, simultaneous launch.
Guys, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Rock of Ages 3. You'll be able to play it very soon, and it's one of the many games we're covering right here at IGN at Gamescom now, so don't go anywhere.
What's up, everybody? James Duggan here in front of the Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord booth. What's up, everybody? James Duggan here in front of the Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord booth. I gotta confess, I've been waiting over a decade to play this game, so I'm eager to go get my hands on, as well as see if we can find a Tale Worlds developer to interview. Let's give it a shot. So I'm here with Callum of Tale Worlds. Tell me, for the unfortunate folks out there who've never played a Mount & Blade game, what is it all about?
So Mount & Blade is a game that combines the genres of strategy and action RPG. It's a medieval game, so you get to ride around on horses, kill people with swords, fire bows and arrows, a lot of fun stuff like that. We've got two sides to the game, so we've got a single-player sandbox, and we've also got a multiplayer with a lot of different game modes in the multiplayer for people to play as well.
Mount & Blade and hopefully Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord are very, very large games in terms of their scale, but I want to start small and talk about the new combat mechanics you've added to Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. What have you done to refine the combat experience?
So we had a very solid core for our combat. It's a directional skill-based combat system, so we didn't want to tinker too much with that, but we have worked on it and added some things to make it a bit deeper, a bit more skill-based. We've got like chain attacks now, for example. We've got some new bashes, shield bashes, things like that, things that we're missing from our last game that we thought made sense to add to this game.
So what if I don't want to play with any bots and only want to play with other players? Is there still a skirmish mode, like a castle siege, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, so we have multiple other game modes in multiplayer. Like you said, one of them skirmish, which is pure PvP, just players on there, and that's 6 versus 6 as well. But then we have siege, which scales up to hundreds of players attacking and defending castles. Yeah, we also have large-scale battles and stuff like that as well.
So this combat game mode is one of 2 pieces in the single-player campaign. So can you tell us about the new features coming to the single-player campaign in Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've taken pretty much everything that we got in Warband and expanded on that vastly. So what we're demoing this year, for example, is our army system, which is a new system where you gather an army based on influence within your faction. We've got clans, which is another new thing that we've added into the game, which is like an internal power struggle within the faction that you join. We've got new diplomacy, new politics, we've got internal voting systems, we've got tons of stuff.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about the progression, the gear, the weapons and the armory. What are we looking at in terms of medieval weaponry?
So in this game, we've actually, another new feature that we've added in is a weapon crafting system, which allows you to craft your own swords, axes, other kinds of melee weapons. And that's done through, you gather resources, and then you can take those to a city and craft them. A blacksmith, which in terms of gear, it's a lot about riding down your enemies and taking what they have.
All right, so it's almost here. I've been waiting over a decade for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, but you guys announced that you're launching it early access. Can you talk to me about when that's coming and the decision-making process behind that?
Of course. So our game's coming to Steam Early Access in March 2020. The decision to launch in Early Access was quite natural for us. We've got a lot of experience in this. Our original title, Mount & Blade, launched in 2005, which was a build that was put on some forums, and our founder, Arman Yavuz, basically just said, do you like this game? You know, can you help support it? And that grew our company. But through that time and throughout the years that we've been in business, we've known that working alongside our community is essential to us. The game's so vast, there's no way we can test everything on our own. And getting that feedback as well, ensuring that our mechanics are fun, enjoyable, that's really important to us.
So these lucky folks are playing right now, but you can get your hands on Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord when it comes to early access in March of 2020. For all things Gamescom, you're already in the right place at IGN.
Reggie Fils-Aimé is retiring.
Eagle-eyed fans are combing through every last frame.
I came prepared.
Oh.
Stay right here on IGN.
And keep it locked to IGN.
IGN Now. New news that's new to you. Introducing the all-new A-Bit News.
Don't touch it. What's wrong with you? Get corn snack. Game sucks.
Bring it back.
A-Bit Noon. Weekends on IGN and YouTube.
Fact. IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid. I got him.
Yeah. Whoa. Yes, yes, yes.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom Now. I'm joined by Sergio and Fernando of Gato Studio Brothers, developers, creators of Waylanders. I understand you've brought an exclusive asset for us.
Yes.
All right. It's a teaser trailer, Waylanders, an RPG. Let's check out this trailer.
We are the wind on the sea. We are the wave on the sea. We are the sun that rises over the mountains. We are the mountains drenched in sunlight. We were. Where once we sung in harmony with nature, now we cry out for its destruction. To those in tune with the old magics, have any place in this world. There must be another way.
I understand that was just a teaser.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see the full thing. Tell us, what is Waylanders?
Waylanders is a classic party-based RPG inspired in beloved classes like Neverwinter Nights to Dragon Age Origins or Baldur's Gate. But with innovations like the tactical combat system that we have introduced, the special units like the battle formations, and but always keeping the classic style of the game. Also, the story is inspired by the myths and legends of the Celtic and medieval ages in the northwestern Spain and Ireland. And we have really a good team of talented international writers helping us to take this story to the next level.
And one of the things I want to kind of hit on right away, because I think it's really interesting, is the concept of moving between two separate timelines. So you mentioned Celtic and medieval times. That's moving between Brigantia and medieval times. This is something the protagonist has the ability to do. How does that work?
Just during our game, we'll have our protagonist will be detached from time because an attack that have the magic attack that have at the beginning of the game, and he can move during that two ages, but the companions cannot do that. So the way we have to meet our companions in the Middle Ages is to look for their reincarnations, and they get up their memories. That would be very interesting from a writing point of view, because the reincarnation doesn't need to be exactly like his past counterpart. So if you have, I don't know, a sorcerer Egyptian in the Celtic Age, then she can be reincarnated, I don't know, in a monk Catholic priest in the Middle Ages. So in the moment that you awake, his memories will be very bad in his head. So that will create a very deep characters with a, deep emotions that will have very, good for the dialogues.
Great. I think it's really cool that there are different parties in the different timelines, and we'll jump into the parties and the companions later on, but let's just discuss the combat. So when it comes to classic RPGs, I think there's, turn-based, real-time. Where does Waylanders fall on that?
Yes, our combat system is very unique, because we have, it's real-time RPG with combat pause, and then when we use the combat pause, we can queue our attacks, and then predict, making a prediction of what will be in the combat. And that mix between our combat pause, the queue, all the abilities we have, because we have 6 classes and 30 advanced classes. And with the formations, there is a possibility that you have to use 5, 4, or 3 members of your team and then unite in a powerful unit. All that mixed together make a very deep combat with full of tactical possibilities.
Great. Are we about to see some combat now, or
exactly? Yes, in this
fight
moment,
a brewing? I can't read the text, but I assume.
Yeah, well, in this moment you can select some election that determine how many enemies you will fight.
Oh, here we go.
In this moment, if you see, I will select the sorcerer, and then teleport her out of the combat, and try to use some area attacks to maintain the damage in the middle of the field.
Oh, that's really cool. So you're queuing up attacks and movement.
Exactly, all the time queuing that, and then I will select the archer to take him out of this mess that I have in the middle, and then you will see when the combat pause will turn down that all will happen very, very fast, because right now our main concern is to have a very fast combat, but very tactical at the same time. So it's like when the player decides to do something, it's like or they want to take the plan, they will do very easy with the combat pause, because you can do orders in between frames, in between seconds. So it's,
Gotcha. How do you find? Do you find that players kind of like will wait for the combat to kind of get to this point and then queue up orders for literally everybody and then let it play out and pause as needed?
And then as you see, that's a formation. That's an orb formation. That is right now containing the enemies, and then our archer that is down is protected because it will attract the enemies with our orb. And we have 12 formations, 2 per basic class, that will give us a lot of possibilities. You can, as I told, you can create a formation with 3, 4, or 5 members. So if if you select to create with 5, you will have a most powerful formation, but without more the tactical possibilities because you will use all the units.
Right.
So that's a balance that the players need to do. And apart from the typical military formations like the orb, the phalanx, or the arrowhead, you will have something special or not that typical formations. Like we have here a healer formation that is not a warrior or a tank, and in this case it's a 5-member formation that will create a very big magical creature with the life force of the other companions.
Is this the Brigantia timeline here?
Yeah, here is the Celtic age.
How does the action change between the 2 timelines?
The moment that we will determine it, well, we do at the end of the Act 1, you will travel to the Middle Ages, and then you can change all the time between the 2 timelines. And we are very focused on have a lot of difference between the 2 ages. Brigantia and the Celtic Age in general will be full of nature, with very calm place. The nature will be very important, and the color palettes will be more intense. And then the Middle Ages will have very busy cities, but with more present, technology or stone, but buildings, and we want to create a lot of difference between that, because it's the core of our aim is to show that war between the magic and the religion that we.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the kind of overarching narrative, what's happening, what the conflict is, as well as kind of NPC interaction.
Yes, during all the game, we focus a lot on the characters. That's the reason that we have very important writers that are very focused on the narrative. Like Emily Grace-Back, that is our lead writer, and she's a specialist in the character interactions. And during all the game, how we interact with the Celtic and the Middle Ages, and the reaction, because our Celtic character will come from obviously a totally different world. So all the interaction with the world and the reincarnations will be the core of the narrative.
And who have you been working with to kind of flesh out this narrative in terms of the writing?
Sorry?
Oh, who have you been working with to kind of flesh out this narrative in terms of writing? You mentioned
the lead narrative of the game is Emily Grace-Back. He began to work with us more than a year ago, and we are very happy because the depth that she gives to the characters. And we have also been working before with Matt Laidlaw, the former creative director of the Dragon Age saga, who helped us to create a high-level narrative and to structure the game and the story. And also from the very beginning has been working with us from 18 months ago, Chris Avalon. He's writing several of the main missions of the game. So I think we have a dream team, of writers, and we are very happy with the result that we are getting now. Really happy.
That's great to hear. Let's discuss classes, progression, how you become more powerful, and how your team becomes more powerful as you progress through this story.
One of the different characteristics that we introduce is there's some games that you introduce the different that when you gain a companion, you can choose the the class from some of the from a bit of election. Like if you have Brick, there is a fighter. You can have Guardian or Warrior to try to adapt to the team, to the player, because in some ways I'm being I don't like when I cannot introduce a character that I like in the team.
Right.
And we'll have 6 classes that I told. There's the Guardian, the Warrior, the Rogue, the Ranger, the Healer, and the Sorcerer. They're very typical. And then we'll have, in the middle of the game, well, in the third part of the game, we'll have advanced classes. There will be 30 advanced classes in the game.
Sure.
Like,
so quite a few, quite a lot of depth. So there's a lot to cover in terms of Waylanders. It seems like a very intricate game with the 2 timelines, a lot of stuff like that. Sergio, Fernando, thank you so much for joining me. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but you can find much more Gamescom coming up right after this.
Oh, hey. Hey everyone, we're here at the 2K booth at the Gamescom 2019 show floor, checking out, obviously, Borderlands 3. Now, we already have a ton of Borderlands 3 content up on IGN, including dozens of hours of gameplay from the IGN first, as well as an interview with Randy Parnell, which you can find on the Gamescom livestream from yesterday. But here, today, we're going to look at the booth. I hear there's gameplay, I hear there's a tattoo, hopefully permanent. Let's find out. Hundreds of folks are lined up to play the gameplay demo here at the booth, which happens to be the Holy Broadcast Center. It's something like a Destiny Strike or a World of Warcraft dungeon, obviously stuff we've seen in Borderlands before. During this mission, you're taught about these speakers that blow up, the loose wiring around them starts to glow, and that's a telegraph that then translates to Mouthpiece, which is the ultimate boss fight of this particular mission. It's a very fun fight. It's got mechanics. It has a couple of phases. It's intricate. It's what I like to see, and hopefully we get to see more of that kind of stuff when Borderlands 3 comes out on September 13th. I told myself I'd never defile this temple, but here we are. I'm doing it for you, for Gamescom, for IGN. Oh, the needle's going in deep. I told myself I wouldn't cry, but I'm not going to lie, this is extremely painful. You know, it was rough, but I think it was worth it. What do you think? Am I catching the light? Is that good? What am I doing?
Fact. IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid. I got him.
Yes! Hey, Nick, did you hear about the new Marvel news?
No, what happened? No, what happened? Hey, what happened? Tell me.
Has this ever happened to you? Good news! It doesn't have to! The Daily Fix is here every day with a concentrated dose of all that gaming, movie, TV, streaming, internet, and puppy news you need to survive the work week. All right, so puppy news isn't on it yet, but I'm working on it. Roll the thing!
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom Now. Moons of Madness is one of the scariest looking video games I've ever seen before, and I can't wait to find out more about it. Here to tell me more are Natasha and Eric from Moons of Madness, and my friend Max, who loves scary stuff. Let's talk Moons of Madness.
What are you talking about?
You are a coward, but
yeah.
that means you love scary stuff.
Too much scary stuff can make you go mad.
That's true. Let's get into this. So tell us about Moons of Madness, because I'm incredibly intrigued about this game.
So Moons of Madness is a cosmic horror game. You play as Shane Newhart, an engineer on a research facility on Mars. I'm not going to spoil the start for you because it's quite an interesting start to the game, but stuff starts to go a bit wrong, and it's your job as an engineer to get things sorted out, and then stuff starts getting a bit weird as well. And also maybe just a tiny bit scary. And things are going to get weirder and scarier and then a bit dangerous as well. So you're going to have to try to figure out what's going on, all the while trying to survive as well.
I will say when previous survivors of a dilapidated space station leave notes in blood, it usually means bad stuff happened. Which is immediately what we're greeted with right here.
Yeah, I'm going to say, as far as space stations go, this one is not looking like it's in great shape here. People have made a lot of comparisons to this between, like they're saying it's like a lot like Dead Space, Event Horizon, Alien Isolation. Do you think those are fair comparisons?
Not Dead Space, actually, because, I mean, if you compare it to Dead Space 1, which was more atmospheric, then definitely a little bit. But if you compare it to Dead Space 2, which was more like about, you know, fighting and action, then it's definitely not, because it's definitely not a fighting game. It's not you have other means to try to survive than like weapons and things like that. It's definitely more a survival. You also mentioned Alien Isolation, which is great. At least specific parts of the game, like the ones where you know there's something there, you hear like the sounds in the vents and stuff like that, and you try to avoid. So it's definitely more that part than like fighting synthetics and things like that.
So we did see the character pick up a crowbar. Is that going to be used for self-defense or puzzle solving?
That's more for puzzle solving.
Yeah, you will actually get to a part where you're going to need the crowbar pretty soon. Actually, right over there.
Yeah.
I feel like Half-Life has conditioned us to be like, yeah, the crowbar, that's a good weapon. And it's like, no, that's for prying things. That's the original use.
Yeah, I think in this particular case with Moons of Madness, it's also that you're not necessarily confronted with things that you think you can fight as well. So I don't think your first instinct would be to use a crowbar to try to fight whatever you might see, or like whatever you think you're seeing and things like that.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's more of a cosmic horror adventure.
Right. I mean, it's clearly like there's a lot of Lovecraftian themes here, which is less about like a thing that you can fight with a flamethrower, you know, cut its head off or whatever, and it's more like things that will make you go slowly insane because they're so utterly terrifying. Was this sort of inspired by Lovecraftian themes, or people are comparing it to Mountains of Madness, but in space? Are you drawing from any specific Lovecraft beats, or is it kind of just an overall homage, a Lovecraftian love letter, so to speak?
Well, I think a Lovecraftian love letter is actually a good way of putting it, for sure. You will definitely recognize some themes and some items even from Lovecraft's mythology, and certainly some of the encounters you'll be having, without spoiling too much, will. I mean, you've seen tentacles on the key art already, so there will be tentacles.
There will be tentacles. My favorite movie.
It's definitely not based on any specific Lovecraft story.
Right.
It's not like, it's not like College of Space or something like that.
Now, horror movies do a thing where they unfold in front of you, and as the viewer, a consumer, you just watch them and they happen. Video games are explored at your own pace, which makes sort of building up tension in a horrifying environment difficult to sustain and maneuver through. How are you guys sort of developing tension for the player in this game?
Well, I think the sequence that we saw right now is quite a good example of that, because you get sort of kicked right into it, and then you awaken to what seems like just another ordinary day, and that gives you the sense of unease, which you carry along with you, even when you're doing, you know, your daily work routine at the research facility. So for me, when playing the game, the scariest parts are quite often the parts where nothing much is really happening, but every now and then you might hear something that reminds you of footsteps. There will be some sound cues that make you think that, oh my God, danger can happen at any moment now.
It's less the part where the doctor gives you the shot, it's more the actual, like,
expectations.
Right.
Yeah. And also the thing that he mentioned with the part at the beginning, and then we get thrown back into normal day. This is what we call zone outs. So they kind of like dream sequences, and you never know, is it a flashback or is it a foreshadowing to something? And as he said, it's kind of putting you in specific situation at unease, kind of, even though it might actually not be a scary situation, but you might remember something that happened earlier on, and then you're just like, this, you have kind of a deja vu. It's like, oh, this happened like half an hour ago, so what is going to happen now, right?
Interesting. Now, a little while ago, the character picked up a key card that said the Orochi Group on it, which is that's a reference to the Secret World, isn't that right?
Oh my God! Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. So
can you speak about sort of you've been sort of cagey about spoilers already,
the tie-in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a little story to this. The game is published by Funcom and co-developed by Funcom, but it's originally developed by Rock Pocket Games in Norway, in Tensberg, and I used to work for Rock Pocket Games before I joined Funcom, we kind of took the game with us, or I kind of took the game with me. And when Funcom came on board, because they do own the Secret World IP franchise, they kind of said, hey, this looks cool, this is already Lovecraft inspired, it was supposed to be from the start. And they were like, hey, what if we like rooted it in the Secret World universe?
Ooh.
So when Funcom came on board, the story was adjusted a little bit to like fit in that universe. And you don't have to have played the game. You don't need to know the universe. But if you do, it's going to be even more interesting for you, because you will see, like you just said, the Orochi Group, and it's like everyone's like, oh, okay, we know these guys.
It's
you know,
cinematic universe Easter egg type stuff. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That like just fleshes out the background and the lore even more to players who know that specific universe.
And also, if you know anything about the Orochi Group. You know, you might have some funny thoughts about what's actually going on at this research facility.
Speaking of the research facility, it feels like a wonderfully designed, sort of lived-in space that also is like sort of normal, like in some ways. Like, how do you build a video game environment that feels sort of boring and sort of normal, but also make it really interesting and it feels like a real place?
I think the idea was always, even when the game was in its conception phase at Rock Pocket, was that we wanted to combine the science with the Lovecraft mythology. So have like something that feels very relatable to the player. They can actually, because it's in the near future, it's not like super sci-fi with beaming and lasers and things, so that the player feels like, hey, I could be in that specific situation. And that's also the reason it should feel like, okay, I could live there, people live there, and it feels very normal. Because the game starts very normal too.
Right.
Like you go about your routines and things, and then we slowly creep in things that shouldn't be there and that probably aren't familiar to the player. And we always thought that this combination of also science and like more solid and like cold things, and then the creepy and Cthulhu, like mythos and all that.
And the environment may also change a bit as you move further into the story as well.
You're also playing with like lighting and shadows a lot. I mean, this is sort of obviously a very moody game. Outside of the music and the lighting and shadows, what are you guys doing to build the mood for players to explore these environments?
Well, I think the audio is a huge part of it, and especially through some of the sequences. I'm not sure if we're going to get quite that far, but walking around in enclosed spaces and hearing maybe some moody sound cues and small footsteps, things falling over, maybe a splash of water. I think that's a big part of creating the atmosphere that we want for this game.
So this is definitely like lights down, headphones in your apartment or house by yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely,
for sure.
yeah.
Now, there's clearly a lot of stuff to pick up and look at. You mentioned sort of solving puzzles. Can you talk a bit about how much of this is sort of, I hate this, people call things like a walking simulator, which is fairly reductive, though some games you can see why they call them that. Can you talk about sort of game mechanics and how much puzzles and how much players will be doing to sort of get through the game?
Well, from my playthrough, I got stuck several times doing puzzles. So it's I think for this game it wouldn't be fair to call it a walking simulator as such. I mean, it is a very story-driven game for sure. But the puzzles are interesting. Some of them more difficult than others, but with time, everyone should be able to get through them. And there will also be some points in the game where you're forced to defend yourself.
Ooh, interesting. So not necessarily combat, but that does fold into the survival element of like something's coming at you and you have to find a way to keep living.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Terrifying concept. When can people play Moons of Madness?
Oh, it'll be out for Halloween this year.
Oh, good timing. Nice work there. And PC, are you doing consoles down the line? Or?
Xbox One and PlayStation 4 as well.
Awesome. That's so cool. Thank you so much for coming on to our show. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Moons of Madness, one of the many games we're covering right here on IGN at Gamescom now, so don't go anywhere.
We're here at AJ Designs, which is located down in the Cosplay Village. AJ Designs is an incredible business that created these awesome cosplays that are just on display behind me. So why don't we check out this first one, which was inspired by well, it wasn't inspired by Pacific Rim, but it is from a Pacific Rim and is actually Gypsy Avenger. They built it back in 2016 over the course of 34 days, and it took them over 1,000 hours. 2 people actually worked on this, and it was commissioned by Universal for the promotion of Pacific Rim 2. And then next up, we have the P-51 Mustang, which, as you can tell, is inspired by Transformers. I mean, look at the detail on this. It's really incredible what AJ Designs has been able to do. And all of these cosplays, of course, since they're cosplays and not statues, do allow for a human to be inside of these. Next up, we have the Ford Mustang. Now, what makes this one special is it's the first cosplay that they actually made. And as you can tell, it's very heavily inspired by Transformers. And by building this cosplay, it actually spurred them to start this company. And finally, the last cosplay that they have displayed on their booth is RC. I say their booth because they actually also commissioned the official GameSpot bot. And they have several cosplays that are on display here at Gamescom in the other halls. So this has been AJ Designs. It is awesome to marvel at people's incredible talent for cosplay, and we'll have more Gamescom 2019 coming at you right after this.
Fact, IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid. I got him.
Yes. Introducing the all-new Up It Nude! Up It Nude's new and approved recipe is chock full of lists, let's plays, unboxings, special guests, goofs, guffaws, and other content too stupid for regular weekdays.
Like some sort of color-changing reptile stripper man. I'm doing it. Don't touch it. What's wrong with you? Get corn snack. Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up at Noon, weekends on IGN and YouTube.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom now. I'm joined by Christoph Monkowitz, founder at Event Horizon, to discuss Dark Envoy. So tell us, what is Dark Envoy?
Thanks for inviting me. So Dark Envoy is our second game. It's a difficult genre, so we're trying to mix RPG, a typical RPG, with a game which has a lot of XCOM in there. So there's a strategic layer, there's a free world exploration, and most importantly for us, there will be a choice. We want to make sure that the player get engaged into the gameplay because we offer him a lot of choices.
Great. We're going to talk about choice. We're definitely going to talk about combat, but I want to start off with the world, the narrative, and the setting. It's pretty unique. Would you quantify it as steampunk?
Well, it's a mixture of steampunk and magic. So we're mixing up magic and technology. Basically, the world setting is we explore the world which is inhabited by the old races, so which have a strong affinity to magic, and then humans who are relatively newcomers to the land. They bring technology, and the two forces collide, clash, and now we get into the final stages of the conflict.
Speaking of conflict, can you talk about the combat? Is it turn-based? Is it real-time? How does it work?
So here, we always try to innovate, bring something new, as we did with our first title. So here, when you find a location, when you fly across the map and you find a location you want to explore, you select your party, you compose your party, picking the classes which you think would be the best fit for the given area, given challenge, and then you explore first the map in the real time. The enemies you will face will be difficult, will be strong. So if you head straight into them without any preparation, you can lose. So the idea is that in the real time you explore a little bit, you understand what enemies you will be facing, you will understand their patrol routes, you can sneak around them, you can lay traps, prepare an ambush. And once you are ready, then you can trigger combat. And then the combat is a turn-based combat.
Gotcha. So we were seeing a little bit of dialogue there, obviously interacting with NPCs, building relationships, and kind of furthering the narrative of your characters. Really important in RPGs. So what are we looking at in terms of player choice when it comes to interacting with other NPCs?
So we start as a pair of siblings, and they are just regular people like you and me. So they have breakfast in the morning, then they head out to the desert to hunt for old temples.
I was with you on the first part. I definitely have breakfast every morning, but I can't remember the last time I was in desert. Please continue.
So, and then suddenly they're pulled into a big plot, which will decide the outcome of the world. And we can side up with a human part representing technology. We can side up with the second faction, other faction representing all races, or we can decide not to side with any of them because neither side is good and just, and shape the world to our own liking.
Gotcha. I noticed that there are these kind of golden circles, areas around the characters. What do those represent?
So they represent the detection range. So whenever you enter in, the enemies enter your range, then the combat will be triggered. So now you can see that for this mission we picked up a stealthy assassin. He's in stealth, so he can just wander the map, scouting the area, understanding where the enemies are, before the rest of the team joins.
I like that a lot.
Fight.
And you can choose to leave members of your party behind?
Yeah, of course. In the final game, the party will consist of 4 players. For this, we just narrow it down to 3. This is the first time we showcase the game, so we didn't want to make it interesting, too difficult. So here, I sneak behind. They don't see me. I see them. I know where they are. This is actually a PvP, so the opponent is human here.
What? Really? That's so cool.
It's
multiplayer here.
It's a multiplayer as well. So we actually have also a quite interesting game mode, which is called Player versus World. So you can play a co-op, you can split your party, and then the tactical part of the game will be super important because player number 1 can take 2 stealthy characters and sneak behind the enemies, lay traps, while the player number 2 prepares the ambush for them when they patrol the route. And then you trigger. What's important is that you fight on your own terms. You trigger the combat when you want and not when you're surprised. So here I'm just trying to understand what is the best position. I see them, they don't see me because I'm sneaking. The range of detection is smaller.
How does that work in terms of triggering combat when you want PvP? It's, you know.
So what we can do, if we stand still behind the cover for a longer period of time, we enter something what we call ambush mode. And then when the enemies enter the ambush mode, then we get bonus in the first round. We get a higher initiative. So we can, for example, eliminate the strongest opponent in the first turn before second player have a chance to react. So now I'm trying to position my troops here, but the player number 2 sends something, and unfortunately in a second, he went into my assassin that I left unprotected. I didn't put him in a cover mode, so now the combat is triggered. And then this is the first turn. We call it a placement turn, so you can move far distance. You have 1 action point. You can use it to attack, or you can use it to move. So now assassins, they deal a lot of damage, but they are very squishy. So I decided to withdraw him behind the cover, so the opponent doesn't have a line of sight, and I position my other troops behind covers, low covers, and high covers as well.
Gotcha. Just for clarity, before the combat began, you and the opponent were kind of jockeying for position in terms of initiative, in terms of getting the team together.
Yes.
Gotcha. And can you tell me about the classes on display here and how they're going to perform in combat differently?
So In the final game, we plan to have at least 15 different classes. So there would be 4 basic classes, melee type warrior, then ranger, which is a typical DPS, range DPS. Then we have an engineer, which is also DPS range, but more of a support function, and adept, which is a magic user. And then each of the class can later specialize in one of the 5 skill trees. So you can mix the skill trees, or you can specialize in one of them. So, for example, assassin, I can specialize in the assassin skill tree, and then at the end, I can unlock a really powerful ultimate abilities of the assassin that would be unavailable to me otherwise. Or I can mix assassin with spell swords, and then I can augment my basic attacks with magic abilities.
Great. We're watching the combat here. We can see the characters taking turns up there at the top. If you see anything on the screen in terms of like, you know, a really cool ability you want to highlight, please feel free to talk about it. But I just want to talk about the larger world for a second. So there's a skyship. Can you tell me about the significance and what that means in terms of gameplay?
So this is the skyship idea. Well, what we want to create is a non-linear game, yeah, where we give player a freedom how he wants to play the game. So he has a main objective, he can progress with the main storyline, he can engage in the side storylines, he can recruit NPCs with their own storylines. But apart from that, if player wants to take a time and explore the world, we leave it up to him. So skyship is your means of transportation. The land is really great, it's really vast. The areas are really diverse, so you have deserts, you have forests, you have shatterlands, you have volcano area. And the skyship also serves as your base of operations, so you can train your champions there, you can research technologies, you can research new weapons, exotic weapons, you can research different skills, you can craft items. Whenever your skyship gets destroyed by the evil guy, which is the end game objective, then the game is over. So you have to be also really careful and
Interesting.
Not
so the
get
game ends
exposed.
when your skyship is destroyed. Can you tell me how that affects replayability? How replayable is Dark Envoy?
So that's also what we will try to do our best, that the game has a very high replayability value. So all the locations will be procedurally generated, apart from the certain key locations. The cities will be in the same place, but all the dungeons, all the areas, all the points of interest will spawn randomly on the map. When you enter the combat, when you enter the location, this is the temple, the layout also will be randomly procedurally generated. There will be a large pool of quests, and in one playthrough, player will not be able to experience 100% of the game. By 100% of the game, what I mean is some of the classes will be very rare. You will have to find them, you will have to do long chain quests. Some of the locations, like a sunken city or a hidden city in the volcano, will not be possible for you to find in a given playthrough. So what we hope is that once player blitz through the game the first time, which would take around 15 to 20 hours, he would find a lot of content that he didn't experience, that he missed, and he would decide to play the game again. Maybe making different choices. Maybe instead of becoming an evil guy at the end, he would choose the different path, the path of good and just.
Great, so there's kind of a morality spectrum. That's very interesting. Can you talk a bit about the antagonists and kind of the conflict that's inherent to the story and what's driving the player forward?
So the setting is quite complex. As I mentioned, it's basically technology fights with magic. Technology is represented by human empire. Magic is represented by the alliance of the old races, and this is a conflict that rages on for a few hundred years. Humans are newcomers to the land. They escape, they are refugees from their own land. We don't know what is it about. This is one of the one of the stories that we discover that perhaps would impact our choices or our alignment towards the humans. Our final objective, I mean, I wouldn't want to spoil too much, but in the beginning, as I mentioned, we are just normal people hunting the desert and so on. And then in the beginning, we get pulled into the conflict, not by our choice. So we are driven by the revenge. Members of our family get killed, and we suspect, or all the evidence point out, that the person responsible for that is the emperor or the guy who's leading the human empire. So we set out on the path of revenge. So basically, we just want to get to his location and eliminate him, taking his place.
When can we expect to see Dark Envoy out, and what platforms is it coming on?
So we plan to do PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. We also consider Switch, seeing how much Switch is popular. Definitely the game should be playable on Switch. In terms of the release date, this is end of 2020, so it's still a long time to go, but we just want to release the game when it's ready and not one day before.
Well, we're eager to play it, so whenever it's ready, we can't wait for it. Dark Envoy, very interesting stuff. Christoph, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Don't go anywhere. Gamescom on IGN returns after this.
Hey everybody, Max here. This is IGN at Gamescom now, and I am now at Gamescom in the retro area. When we think retro, we usually think, I don't know, Pac-Man, old Mario maybe, but when you stop and think about it, Lara Croft has been around quite a while now, and few video game characters have really grown up quite the same way she has, going from kind of the early low-poly iterations to, quite often, flesh and blood live-action adaptations, or incredibly gritty modern rebooted versions. This is a wonderful collection of sort of various Lara Croft collectibles over the years from her very early days in both you know, video game form and in plastic form. And it's kind of cool to just sort of go down memory lane and see how she's changed both in appearance and in sort of, you know, presentation. Up here we've got some action figures that were released by Playmates. These were in the late 90s, probably 1998 or 99. I remember distinctly seeing this one back here, which is, if you're familiar with action figure collecting, kind of an odd scale. I believe that's around 8 or 9 inches tall. Not terribly articulated, but like a lot of attention paid to the base. Playmates is also known for making like Ninja Turtles toys. They've had the Star Trek license, and they very frequently focus on making sort of action feature heavy things. And they also made these little play sets here, which is, you know, Lara sort of scaling the side of this Yeti mountain. Or, I don't know, not seeing that there's a tiger right behind her. There was another one, I think, that had a crocodile along with it. Down here we have a couple more, which are, it's weird because they feel almost like earlier versions of the kind of statuettes you get in collector's editions of games. Over here we've got a couple of the games in different versions. Here's, I guess that's a strategy guide. There's Lara with her motorbike. And then down here, this isn't exactly in chronological order. We've got, of course, Game Boy Advance games. Here's where she's kind of in that weird middle stage where they're kind of sticking with the original aesthetic, but getting darker with things, with the whole Angel of Darkness thing. Here's a board game. That's always odd to see. They're all really stuck in ice there. Here's a Lara Croft edition Maglite, and you know, in case you're exploring a very, very small tomb. Down here at the very bottom, some undoubtable classics, Game Boy Color versions. Different collector's edition boxes with lots of artwork and stuff. And then over here, of course, there's the modern iteration. This is the Play Arts Kai action figure, which was released, I believe this is the more recent Tomb Raider, was that 2012, 2013? The new Tomb Raider in the survival kit, which had a bunch of sort of doodads and tchotchkes in it. There was an art book here. I think I had one of these at some point. And then there was this badge here. You know, it's almost like a merit badge for scouts. And here is the Rise of the Tomb Raider Collector's Edition. This is, you know, definitely more familiar in more recent years. And then as we get down here, again, more figures. There's the Totaku, the sort of, you know, non-Nintendo enabled amiibo type collectible. I didn't even know they made a Lara of hers. There's the Shadow of the Tomb Raider official tactical flashlight for, again, Tomb Raiden, which has different interchangeable colored lenses. I love this. And of course, the tactical coffee mug. Now, most recently, I love this. We got Alicia Vikander playing Lara in the most recent movie, and they made a Barbie to go along with that, which, I mean, I guess it's fairly toned down as far as Barbie goes, but that's still way too clean for Lara. She should be covered in like deer blood and mud and things like that. And then there were the many the Top Cow appearances of Lara. It's kind of funny to see how one character can be interpreted so differently over many years. I mean, she's gone from sort of, you know, sort of pinup material to kind of more of a, you know, a proper video game heroine. Oh boy, I don't know if we're allowed to show that, but there's Kara Loft Womb Raider. I can't imagine what that is. Anyway, Gamescom is a fun place. I love this. You can see brand new exclusive gameplay you've never seen anywhere else, or you can kind of take a trip back down and do some semi-literal tomb raiding here and digging through antiquities, so to speak, much like Lara Croft would do. We have lots more coverage coming out of Gamescom. This is IGN at Gamescom now. We'll be right back.
Hey, Nick, did you hear about the new Marvel news?
No, what happened? What happened? Hey, what happened? Tell me.
Has this ever happened to you? Good news! It doesn't have to! The Daily Fix is here every day with a concentrated dose of all that gaming, movie, TV, streaming, internet, and puppy news you need to survive the work week. All right, so puppy news isn't on it yet, but I'm working on it. Roll the thing!
Reggie Fils-Aimé is retiring. Eagle-eyed fans are combing through every last frame. I can't prepare.
Oh.
Stay right here on IGN.
And keep it locked to IGN. IGN Now. New news that's new to you.
Introducing the all-new Up It News.
Don't touch it. What's wrong with you? Get corn snack. Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up at noon. Weekends on IGN and YouTube.
What's up, everybody? James Duggan here. Joining me is Destin Legary.
Hey, everybody.
Guess where we are? We're at the Doom Eternal booth at Gamescom 2019 on the show floor. The vapor. It smells like cotton candy. That's fantastic. You know, I got to say, straight off the bat, this booth looks absolutely fantastic.
It's cool. It's cool. I've been having a lot of fun checking out all the various things, like this helmet.
Like this helmet. Before we get to this helmet, though, I do want to talk about some of the other stuff that is here. They have a id and Bethesda kind of showcase, museum. Yep. And then around the back, they have the various eras of Doom Guy. But this helmet, Destin.
Yeah.
You got to put this thing on.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's put it on right now. So this is...
Get in here, Jesse. Take a look.
I believe this is the pre-order helmet.
Supposedly, this is the helmet. I mean, keep it on. This is the helmet that comes with the collector's edition, and you can see it fits on a man's head who has a large head. So that's very exciting. What do you? How is it in there?
Can you even hear me? I don't know. It's really isolating, but yeah, it lights up and everything. I wonder if there's noises. Anyway.
All right, let's talk about the actual game now. So we got to play Doom Eternal at E3. And my initial reaction was, it is very arcadey. There's a lot of puzzle elements, and I absolutely love that. I was a huge fan of Doom 2016. The majority of, all the arsenal is returning with, I believe, 1 or 2 additions, but the enemies I fought, the combat encounters, they were broken up by these really great jumping puzzles.
Yeah, the combat loop of like having the chainsaw somebody, having that fire that you can hit, the grenade mechanics, and tying it all together with the mechanics of traversal is just really, really great, and it feels super fun.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's really interesting. They have it here at Gamescom. Of course, we're at the booth, but on Stadia. Now, having played it on PC, I was really, really curious, and I've been really cynical about Stadia. I'm like, their streams can't even stop lagging, you know? So I try it out, and I think it sold me on Google Stadia.
Oh, that's
I'm not even kidding. Yeah, so in an environment like this, you're dealing with a lot of networking problems and things like that. So they had Mortal Kombat, and they had Doom Eternal, and I luckily got to play Doom Eternal, and it plays fairly well. It stuttered a little bit during the cutscenes, but that was about it. The flow of combat still felt good on a controller.
It's very risky of you to say. Do you want to say anything positive about the Epic Store just to garner more comments? Let's go back to Doom Eternal and go back to some of the resource stuff. You have that flame attack, you have that melee attack, and then you have basically your regenerating health, ammo, and armor as you're going through, so there's this very cool flow to combat, in addition to it looking completely badass. But talking about Stadia and the multiplayer, I think something like Doom Eternal that I'm probably going to play primarily single player.
Yes.
I know there's that like demon mode.
That's be okay.
Because you're not sequestered like Destiny, where you can't play with Xbox or...
Exactly. There was another game on display, and that's Mortal Kombat 11, and actually they were doing multiplayer matches with that also. So
I'm really curious how that's going to work, because Mortal Kombat already has a fantastic online infrastructure that compensates for lag and such. Add the additional layer of a Google Stadia, sort of environment. I'm really, really wondering how smooth that's going to be. But again, it seemed to be playing pretty well. I didn't get hands-on with that, but I was watching other people play. They were executing their moves. They didn't seem to be impacted by any sort of lag that a 60 FPS fighting game would encounter.
So those were our impressions of what we played of Doom Eternal at E3, as well as Google Stadia here at Gamescom. xCloud is also here. I think that's really interesting because that's going to utilize the Microsoft Friends list and the existing architecture.
Did you get hands-on with xCloud?
I didn't. But there is a
didn't.
booth.
I did.
You did? What'd you think?
Yeah, so I got to play Halo at E3 also. Now, I don't think xCloud was as smooth. There was a lot of hitching. There was a lot of delay, actually. They have a controller connected to a screen, basically, and that was how you were playing a lot of the xCloud stuff. It seems like they have a little bit more work to do compared to the Google Stadia platform, which, again, really, really impressed me thus far. I would love to get more hands-on time with Stadia, especially at launch. I think it might, surprisingly, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I thought there's no way Google Stadia is going to be this functional. So then I try it out and I'm like, oh my God, this thing might be good.
All right, Destin Legary putting his life on the line there to say Google Stadia is it. Maybe, I don't know, I don't care.
I didn't say that.
For all things Gamescom, keep it right here on IGN.
What's up, everybody? James Duggan with IGN at Gamescom 2019 inside the Eternal Cylinder booth. And here to talk about the game is Carlos Bordeaux, designer at Ace Team. So we're getting started. Tell us what's happening. Let's check out the first 5 minutes of the game.
Okay, you're this little creature born into this really strange alien world, and right off the bat, you are born right as you're about to be crushed by this massive, giant cylinder, which is destroying everything around it. So basically, in this beginning portion, you're basically taught the basics of the game. You have to try to run to safety. And we were teaching you how to jump and how to move around. But the game opens up as you progress further. This is a little bit the onboarding. But if you look backwards, you'll see that the cylinder is breaking everything, it's crushing everything. This is not pre-animated. This is part of the dynamic destruction system that we're working on for the game. So yeah, I have to really quickly try to get to safety with this little creature.
So obviously this is a little bit of a tutorial element that is handcrafted, but there are procedural generated elements as well in the game. So can you tell us what those look like?
Correct. So basically, as you were correctly saying, this is the onboarding. Later on, the game opens up and the environment is completely, not entirely, I mean, it's handcrafted but dynamic also. So it's not completely procedural, maybe as a game more like No Man's Sky. It's more that you have chunks of the level loading in different patterns, which gives you totally different new environments each time you play through the game. So at this point, for instance, I'm using one of the main features of the game, which is the ability to eat food, like to just use it
You're
like
sucking it up with your little trunk there.
And I get these creatures jumping around, and one of the central mechanics in the game is you are what you eat. So if I eat one of those eggs from those grasshoppers, then boom, I get a pair of new legs, which gives me the ability to jump. Before, when I was trapped here, I couldn't jump out because the creature doesn't jump very high, but now with this new power, I can jump around. So another example, I can eat this. For instance, I can try eating one of the inventory. And
I didn't know you could do that.
You can do that. You can shoot out anything, all the things that you're eating. So I'm swimming around here. Now I have this kind of blowfish, and I'm going to eat him. And this is going to give me a new power. Basically, now I have larger body, more inventory slots.
You're American.
But yeah, I can shoot out whatever I eat. I can also shoot out water, like that, like spray water. And I need to make sure I have water and food. It's a survival game afterwards. But it also has a narrative in the game. For instance, here I'm going to reach this elder here, which is like a
little bit of a story element.
A little bit of story element in the game, which is showing this dead creature once had this light which allows him to activate these anchor towers which stop the cylinder. This is going to be pretty evident now in a few seconds when I show how.
Just to talk about this structure, because it's really difficult to grasp in 5 minutes. From what I've played, they're essentially these barriers, which we're seeing right now, that stop the cylinder from rolling. You're free to explore sections, get to the barrier, activate it, survive, and then figure out what's going on next, whether it be procedural stuff, whether it be new mutations, or narrative elements. So let's see what's happening here.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description. So in this case, I'm being introduced to this mechanic that the cylinder is moving, so I need to reach one of those towers that you can see in the horizon. So my objective here is reach as fast as I can because the cylinder is moving pretty quickly and it's destroying everything in its path.
But it just looks so good, you have to take a second to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And what happened with the screen there was you stepped into a bush and therefore activated some kind of stealth?
Yeah. In that case, we also have some stealth elements in the game since there are predators that can come and try to eat you.
So now you are theoretically safe for the time being.
Here I've reached the point where I have activated the barrier, the cylinder is coming, but this large anchor point is going to keep me safe. And as you can see, we're destroying all the rocks and the elements, everything just...
It's so ominous, but you're okay for the time being. It's worth pointing out that this skin, this kind of zebra pattern, is the first time I've seen this. And you do end up getting a party. There's a lot more to this game. Carlos, thank you so much for taking us through the first 5 minutes. There's a lot more to learn about Eternal Cylinder. It's a very creative game. Quite beautiful, if I may add. So for all things Eternal Cylinder and Gamescom, you're already in the right place at IGN.
What's up, everybody? James Duggan here on the Gamescom show floor in the Hunt Showdown booth. Joining me is Bianca of Crytek to discuss Hunt Showdown. So I would say Hunt Showdown is like the formative PvPvE game that seems to be getting a lot of love in terms of the genre. Tell me about what you've done since launch.
So we've done a lot of things. We do a lot of community-driven development, which means that with the community together, we've shaped the game to what it is today. So especially, for example, with our 1.0 release, which is coming Tuesday, we have added Teams of 3, which was the biggest community feature that was requested since pretty much the start. We have overhauled the new UI, we have added a bunch of new monsters, we added a new boss, we added a new map, so quite a lot of stuff. We keep it busy.
All right, let's back up for a second. For folks at home who haven't played Hunt Showdown, what is the game in kind of an elevator pitch?
So the game is a PvP monster hunter game where you play against other hunters, currently a max of 12 with the new update, where you have to gather clues, banish a monster, or you can do a quick play where you close wrists and try to get the wellspring.
Gotcha. What would you say to folks who played as soon as Hunt went into early access on Steam but haven't touched it since then?
I would definitely say come back, because we hear from a lot of people that haven't been in a game for quite a long time that they jump in and it's like, it's a completely new game. So definitely try it out again, because a lot of change. It's the same game in its core, but it adds so much more that it's definitely a chance to come back.
So there's a really interesting dynamic in PvPvE where you kind of have these two separate progression paths. You have in-match progression, or rather a specific character that when they die, they're gone, and then the out-of-match progression. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, so you have the outer line progression is the bloodline, which is your overarching level. So when you level up, even if you die, you still take a little bit of XP to your bloodline, which means they can still progress even if you technically lose, to then maybe get better weapons, get more money, and then eventually take out the boss and get more experience. So.
Hunt is a very destitute game. It's very, very atmospheric. I really like what's happening thematically. So when is this set in terms of history? Obviously somewhat fictional. And what's going on with the aesthetic?
So it's set in the late 1800s in the Louisiana swamp. So it's a very eerie, dark time where you have a little bit of voodoo, a little bit of like magic happening with the dark side and the clues, which are obviously not very natural, and a lot of the monsters, which is the infected. And whatever's going on there, it's still a mystery. So like we can't reveal much, but it is a looming presence.
Great. So something in the game as a service that's very prevalent are the concept of events or kind of, special seasonal events. Apex just had that infamous Iron Crown event. I forgive you, Respawn, but I don't think your community does right now. Anyway, have you had anything like that in Hunt Showdown?
We haven't really had any events with like loot or specifically like loot boxes, but we just did a community event for 1.0 preparation where they can earn the new premium currency that they can use to like unlock the hunters that they want, as well as a special weapon skin that they're working towards this week until the 27th.
All right, finally, what would you say to someone out there who's never played the game, who's thinking of giving it a shot? Sell them.
The game is a unique experience where you can have both PvE and PvP, where you can play with friends, and it's a very unforgiving experience, but trust me, once you get into it, you never want to let it go.
I have to say, it's very atmospheric, it's a lot of fun, very unique, definitely check it out, and for all things Gamescom 2019, you're already in the right place at IGN.
Reggie Fils-Aimé is retiring. Eagle-eyed fans are combing through every last frame.
I came prepared.
Oh.
Stay right here on IGN.
And keep it locked to IGN.
IGN Now. New news that's new to you.
Introducing the all-new Up-It News!
Don't touch it. What's wrong with you? Get corn snack. Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up-It Noon, weekends on IGN and YouTube.
Fact. IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid.
I got him.
Yes, yes, yes.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom Now. This is NVC, IGN's Nintendo podcast, and right now we're going to talk about The Witcher 3 on the Switch and other games we got to play at the Nintendo Switch while here at Gamescom. Pear, you got to play The Witcher 3.
Yes, I saw the Switcher running on the tiny screen and some footage of it running on a TV. They didn't have it hooked up to play on a TV. Probably a wise choice. The footage on the TV looks really blurry and not great, and then you play it on the tiny screen and it looks good. It looks surprisingly good.
I've noticed that with a couple of games this year at conventions, and the Switch obviously handheld and and console until September 20th when the Switch Lite comes out, and it's just one. They did this with Mortal Kombat at PAX East, where they were like, here's the game, but it's only hiding here, and you can't film it, you can't do anything like that. So at the Witcher booth, which was weirdly enough behind like a small wall, you had to be 18 to get in.
Unlike any of the other games that Nintendo's booth.
They're actually pretty strict about it here in Germany, which I respect. They had it running on a TV where it didn't look great. And like I imagine the footage you're seeing now or the footage you've seen before, really any of it, hasn't really looked that great compared to, this is one of those games where people they play max settings, they buy brand new PCs for and just kick it to the highest possible settings.
It got upgraded for PS Plus and
exactly.
Xbox One X, all of that, right?
In handheld mode, this is one of the best looking games on Switch.
It is. It's really pretty, and the thing that impressed me is the lighting is really good.
Yeah.
So the lighting, the kind of the sun-drenched vistas, it looks really good. The Witcher and his horse Roach cast really good shadows on everything. So not just on the ground, but on all the environments. You can see it in some of the footage, and it just looks. It really looks good. And if they had done it where they had ported it at a higher frame rate but taken out some of the lighting and special effects, I think it would have looked far worse. I actually like this decision.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a very different art direction than Breath of the Wild, but if you played 100 hours of that game, you'll be right at home here. The thing I will say, though, is that horses in video games are different from game to game. And there have been several of them since this game came out, such as Red Dead, where the horse was mostly smart but also got tired and dirty. And, Breath of the Wild, which was like really awesome being able to jump over everything.
Yeah, but
Roach is an idiot.
Roach was never a very good horse.
Yeah, Roach is an idiot horse.
Roach is not good at jumping over things, so...
we dug into the settings a bit, which luckily you were there to help do because you could read German and we couldn't.
Then they got mad at us.
Yeah, but that's okay. But we can talk about what we did before they got mad at us.
There's like, you can turn off aliasing.
Yes.
So you can make it look even sharper. Actually, I don't know if it worked right. Like, I didn't see much of a difference there, but,
The motion blur we were able to turn off, that helped a lot.
You can turn off motion blur, so there are a couple of settings like that. that. There's nothing about like dynamic resolution or anything like that. But yeah, I thought it looks really good. And if you haven't played The Witcher, you know, if I had to pick my game of the decade, it would be a fight between Breath of the Wild and The Witcher 3.
Ooh. Yeah.
I think The Witcher 3 is just fantastic. It includes the DLC, which is also really good.
All of it. It is the complete edition.
Yeah,
that's great. And both of those DLCs are incredible.
And
so.
it controls well.
It does,
you know,
yeah.
We played the beginning of it, so you didn't have that many powers yet. But
I wonder how big that file size is going to be. That's going to be pretty massive.
I think the whole thing is on a 32 gig card.
32 gig.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they said that the original game is not that much bigger.
No, that's
they actually, I talked to the developer a little bit. They said that they were able to just compress textures. They removed some of the level of detail. The original game, I think, has like 5 LOD levels, this one has 3.
Right.
So because the screen is smaller, you're not seeing things, you know.
The draw distance
distance is a little different. But
when we
played space,
we went into the settings and changed it to nighttime, and it was like not as good looking. During the day, there's a lot of like, I think the skyboxes are doing a lot of heavy lifting to make that game look really good.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a pretty looking game.
So worth to play it.
For sure.
What if you've already played The Witcher 3 on another console?
Depends. If you haven't finished, if you haven't played the DLC, maybe it's worth a shot here, but you have to replay the whole game.
Yeah.
Or if you didn't explore some of the side stories, because some of the side stories are better than the main quest.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
You gotta play them.
Yeah.
They're just so good.
So that was we were talking about The Witcher 3 on the Nintendo Switch. It actually also just got a release date. It's going to be October 15th, which we learned during the Gamescom opening night show.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, and it's here playable.
It's good. So you have 2 weeks to finish it before Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is 1 year too little.
Can you cram 150 hours into 2 weeks?
No. And then even if you skip Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon comes out the next month.
Yeah.
So
And you also have 3 weeks to finish Link's Awakening.
Oh no. There's too many Nintendo Switch
Good
games.
travel game though.
Good problems to have.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Yeah.
It is a good travel game.
It'd probably kill your battery.
Yeah,
I
that's-
assume.
Yeah, but now you've got the little light, the Switch Lite.
And the Switch
Neo, whatever.
Yeah.
What's your new Switch called?
I don't
Charlie.
know. Yeah,
Okay.
Light Switch. No, I'm kidding.
The light.
Speaking of the Switch Lite, Brian, you got to see it.
Yes.
Here at Gamescom. They have
So
them.
we will have hands-on impressions in a little under a week via Seth Macy,
Cool.
who went to the New York City preview event, which I really wanted to go to, but I was here. I was not able to hold the Switch, but it is behind glass, and I got to see it in person, the Switch Lite, and hold up my personal new Switch up to it. I feel like they had the brightness setting down a little bit, but the cool thing about this is that usually when you see hardware on a show floor like this, it's just a controller or something like that, or it's a PlayStation. This was actually running gameplay. They ran Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild, and Smash Brothers, and pretty much cycled between the 3. I have the gray one pre-ordered, which looks a lot darker in person than I expected.
Yeah.
It's almost like a charcoal. It's like very different than any gray they've done before. And then the turquoise and banana yellow, as I'm referring it to, are really, really awesome. Like they really pop.
Okay. Because I looked right at the gray one and fell asleep a little bit. Just
If you're
because of
familiar with Nintendo Voice Chat, we've already
Yeah.
given Brian a lot of crap for
For
his
getting
color
gray.
choice.
Yeah.
I like it because it reminds me of a Game Boy.
This
you know?
reaffirmed my decision to go with yellow. The plastic and
least
everything
popular
looks
color.
really good. Like this doesn't have the kind of chintzy looking plastic of the Wii U or even some of the Game Boy Advance models. This is like the kind of more like the kind of porous textured. Like it looks a little glossy, like not glossier. Like it looks more expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't look like it's like a fingerprint magnet, so that's cool. The bevel's a little interesting. The D-pad looks awesome. The shoulder buttons look almost identical to the ones we have already right now, which are great because those have served us well so far.
I'd be really interested to test out the D-pad.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and again, this is a handheld-only $200 system. This will not connect to your TV unless you have some fancy capture kit, I imagine. So.
Well, we'll see if it's software blocked or hardware blocked with some of the Genki output coming.
Oh,
We'll see if you can actually connect it to the TV. I bet.
I have a feeling they just yanked that stuff out of the internals to
because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was so easy to just leave it in and it's just software.
Yeah, keep the size down.
And somebody's going to hack it.
Yeah.
So we all also got to play some games on the Switch that are here at Gamescom.
Yeah.
Zach, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I played Trine 4, which is the fourth Trine. But it's like a action puzzler game. This is taking it back to the series roots, where it's more 2.5D. But I played the opening level, and it's just so much fun and so charming. And the puzzles are accessible but challenging. You know, like we fought a really cool boss. That was a lot of fun. The developer that was there, or the guy giving me the demo on hand, said that this is the longest Trine game that they've built, which is really cool. So if you're a fan of the series, I think that this is probably right up your alley. I'm stoked to play this. I think it looks really good.
So pretty.
I played the one that was on Wii U.
Yeah, that was Trine 3.
Trine 3. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
and Trine 3 was more of like a more 3D than these ones are. But yeah, this game looks awesome, and I had a lot of fun playing the demo. Let's see, what else did I play? I played Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, I did too.
I played
Did
Panzer
everyone get to
Dragoon.
play that?
Yeah.
What did everyone think?
I'm not a fan.
It looks really nice. It feels very old.
Yeah.
And it runs kind of choppy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I'm hoping it's not done.
I think so. The person who was showing the game, I just went up to the booth and played it. He had a ton of notes after talking to everyone. He was writing like everything
Oh,
down.
really?
So I'm wondering if this is just a really early.
You're talking about like a Brian X Machina situation.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is a really
Change the
early
name.
playable demo, and they're actually taking feedback from people's hands-on impressions on the show floor.
Yeah. This sounds like an idiotic sentence, which I'm very much known for, but I think the dragon is too big.
What?
Like,
You think the dragon is too
Yeah,
big?
I could see
think
that.
he's like he basically
takes up too much screen space.
Yeah,
Okay.
and his
It's
big
hard
ass
to see
wings
where
is
you're
blocking
aiming.
your whole field of
Yeah.
view. It's just like
I mean, the issue I had.
Too
first
much
of all,
dragon.
If you haven't played Panzer Dragoon, it's just like Star Fox, right? You have a special power where if you hold down the shot button, you lock on to enemies, so you can complete like entire, you can shoot down entire groups of 5 as they come at you, and that's how the game is played. And then the shoulder buttons will let you look left and right. The shoulder buttons will let you look left and right. So there are enemies on your sides, and you have a radar that shows you where the others are. All of that works really well, but the game runs a little slow. And it's just like we've seen so much more since Panzer Dragoon came out, right?
Yeah.
It feels very slow.
very old.
There was one area where literally nothing happened. So I got to think it's just really early on.
Yeah, and I desperately wanted to do barrel rolls and dodge, and you
can't do that.
It's literally just control the dragon with the left stick and then press a button for attack.
You're absolutely right. It needs more to do.
It's a cool throwback. Panzer Dragoon Saga is sort of like the definitive Panzer Dragoon game, and I wish it was that one coming.
Very
to Switch.
different.
Yeah, but it's it's neat to have this, especially for like old dudes like me that remember playing it on Saturn when it came out.
No, I totally agree. It's a cool throwback game. I wish they added a couple of more modern features.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that could probably be said about any remaster.
This is true.
Yeah, I also got to play Final Fantasy VIII for a little bit, and it looks nice. But it also runs a little choppy, which is weird.
That is weird.
For a PlayStation game, like I was kind of surprised. Even the demo guy, the guy giving me the demo was like, yeah, it's a little bit choppy. We're still working out the bugs. But, it's basically a straight port, up-resed, so it looks a little nicer, and it has some of the features that the other Final Fantasies have, where it's like instant kill and fast forward, so you can move through areas faster, which is cool. I love Final Fantasy VIII. It's classically divisive.
How do you think the art style holds up, though? Like,
I mean, it doesn't look great.
It does not look great.
No.
I was, like you put Final Fantasy VI up there, and it still looks really cool.
Yeah.
And then 7 onward, it gets a little rough. And
Yeah.
8 has not aged well.
I mean, it was a huge jump from 7, where you had these squat characters, and this is a more realistic-looking game. But it leaves something to be desired.
Yeah.
I
a great game.
I played a little bit of Dragon Quest XI, which looks beautiful on Switch.
And there's a demo out for that now, right?
Yeah, there is a demo, and I can't wait for that game.
Your progress during the demo will transfer over.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
really
stoked.
cool.
Game, so
Like, I was on the fence as to whether or not I could cop to a another 80-hour RPG, but I'm gonna do it. Like, that game looks awesome, and I've heard that it is an incredible, like, sort of genre-defining game for this.
And the
gen,
switch
so.
over to 2D is really cool too. Just the
that's
fact
really
you can
awesome.
Play the entire game
you can play it in like a 16-bit version. That
yeah,
looks
they
really
added
neat.
a ton of features for the S version on the Switch.
Speaking of 2D, did you guys see Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games 2020?
I saw a lot of people playing it.
Did you see that?
I saw
did you see the
a picture
2D
of
mode?
Wario without a shirt on.
Yeah, that's very odd.
So I had no interest in that game.
Yep.
But I do have an interest in Wario shirtless.
They showed the 2D mode. So they basically did like a track and field with a mix of like 8-bit Nintendo characters,
It's really cool.
16-bit Sonic in it.
It's essentially the entire game, from what I can tell, and is based on the Tokyo 64.
10 disciplines.
In the like on social, I saw that they were explicit about saying certain events.
Okay.
So it's not everything. I think it's like up to an X number of events.
Yeah, it was like a lot of them.
It's 10
10
events.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's based on the 1964 Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, so
that's really cool.
And it's
Yeah,
got
it's really
running,
out.
it's got, you know, jumping, all that stuff.
There was like wrestling, and it showed a character just like body slamming 8-bit Peach, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's weird as hell. I gotta play that.
But it looks so fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it brought back memories of track and field and summer games for me, and like, I'm actually paying attention now. I think that
know.
was such a smart move. And then seeing 16-bit Sonic against 8-bit Mario is just really cool.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brand new. They announced it here, yeah.
There was actually one more thing that I discovered here at Gamescom that I wanted to share with you guys, and I was curious to see if you also got to experience this. Can we put that image up on the screen there? Is that doable? Meat sticks.
I saw a bunch of people walking
Yeah,
around
we
with
eat
the
these
meat
big
sticks.
meat sticks. They're
Okay.
big, pointy meat sticks.
Yeah.
They've got a nice spice to them and a good smoky flavor.
What is the actual name for
You're
the
missing
meat
the most important part of these meat sticks is that they are essentially swords, and the bread at the bottom is the hilt.
That's true.
Okay.
And that keeps your hand, so the barbecue drips down onto the hilt, and then your hand is clean.
Delicious and portable, not unlike
I
the
have
Nintendo Switch
a
itself.
photo. I have a photo of Dustin
outta
Legary
here.
dual wielding these things, very Witcher like.
That's what you guys ate? I went for currywurst.
Nah, meat sticks all the way.
Meat sticks. What is the actual name?
It's impossible to know.
It's not
Can't even tell what the
German.
meat is. Could be it could be any animal really.
Fleischschwerter.
Could be shoes. We have
Old
no idea.
tradition.
Is it?
Flesh swords.
Really?
No. I don't know what these things are. They're
Hello.
like
You got me,
convention
Fair.
food. No, but the food's actually pretty good.
That's
for the
all
food
right,
fest.
yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
It's
Rein it in,
portable
boys.
and light and affordable, just like the Nintendo Switch. But that's about all the time we have right now.
Great.
Stick around for more. We're going to talk about Astral Chain and also our most anticipated games from the Nintendo Indies World live stream. We'll be right back.
Fact. IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid.
Yes. Hey, Nick, did you hear about the new Marvel news?
No, what happened? No, what happened? Hey, what happened? Tell me.
Has this ever happened to you? Good news! It doesn't have to! The Daily Fix is here every day with a concentrated dose of all that gaming, movie, TV, streaming, internet, and puppy news you need to survive the work week. All right, so puppy news isn't on it yet, but I'm working on it. Roll the thing!
Hello and welcome back to IGN at Gamescom Now. This is MVC, IGN's Nintendo podcast, so we're going to be talking about Astral Chain. We just got a 30-minute gameplay video of it, and we're also going to be talking about our most anticipated games from the Nintendo Indies World Showcase. I don't know if you've noticed, but we switched out Zach Ryan for Mitchell, because Mitchell is
I am
one of the-
actually wearing. Sorry, no,
This
never
is
mind.
Zach.
I had
Transformed.
something in my head and it just didn't work out. Never mind.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us, Mitchell.
Thank
You've
you.
been
Thank
working
you.
super hard at Gamescom, so I'm glad you're up here.
I'm
so
so
much.
happy to be here.
You're doing tons of behind-the-scenes stuff, so it's good to have you right here on the couch.
But Mitchell is one of the only people in the office who has gotten hands-on with Astral Chain so far.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring you on to tell us about it, because it's one of those games that I think a lot of people have been talking about but don't know a lot about, don't know if it's their type of game or what to expect. So first hands-on impressions, what do you think?
First hands-on impressions are, man, this game is awesome. So you can see we got some, if you're watching this, you've got some footage right here. The big thing about Astral Chain is that a lot of Platinum games are kind of defined by having a lot of like complex combos that you can do with your actual character. In Astral Chain, your combos for your own character are very, very minimal. You just mash one button, you have the same combo for all your different weapons. But the big difference is that you have this other being that you can control, and that being is the one that is really doing most of the damage here. And you don't actually hit any buttons for it to attack. You just kind of move it in front of an enemy, and it does all the attacking on its own. And so it becomes this game of keeping track of not only your own damage, but also you want to make sure that your Legion doesn't get hit, because if your Legion gets hit, then that little circular blue meter goes down, and if it goes down all the way, it disappears and you can't bring it back until the meter goes back up. And all the while you're micromanaging this, you also have the titular astral chain, which is connecting you to, and you can use that to wrap up enemies. There's a couple of moves that kind of utilize it, so you can like have it go straight away, and then you'll have arrows that fall down on the line of the astral chain, and it's a lot to micromanage.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that if you get used to it and you master how it works, there's nothing like what it feels like to be in a really heated battle of Astral Chain and like just, you know,
so Mitchell,
succeeding.
You're a huge Platinum Games fan,
Yes.
like one of the biggest I've ever met. Is there anything that this sort of like, can you sort of compare this to that this is adjacent to?
Does it
Is
feel like Bayonetta? Like when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna play like Bayonetta, but it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I think Atsushi Inaba, one of the main producers at Platinum Games, he described this as being like the evolution of Platinum Combat.
Okay.
And I can totally see where he's coming from with that, because you play it and there's elements of so many different Platinum games in there. It has the Bayonetta style of if you dodge just at the right time, time slows down. It has the Metal Gear Rising blade slashing mechanic. It has the Metal Gear Rising thing where you can like steal hearts from enemies to refill your life. It has the wonderful 101 mechanic of having to like use a different control method to do damage. And even though it has all those very familiar aspects of other Platinum games, it still feels entirely on its own.
So it has sort of elements of like a greatest hits of Platinum, but builds on something brand new entirely.
Yeah, it kind of takes all that and manages to find its own identity.
Yeah, I find this game to be like fascinating and bizarre. I did a couple interviews for it at E3, and I had no idea like the whole sort of jaywalking police angle where you're like you're cleaning up litter in the street, but then you go to these like weird nightmare planes and you start fighting these like incredible looking beasts, and this is a really damn good looking game.
Yeah, it is.
Like, this is a beautiful game.
I love the creature design. It's just so interesting. It's futuristic without being too robotic, I guess, if that makes sense. Like just looking at this creature on the screen right now, it still seems really like biological. Like you're not looking at a total machine thing. I guess less robot than Zoids.
For sure. And what's interesting is Brian talked about the jaywalking thing. All we're seeing right now is the combat, but there's a whole other element to this game where it's like almost RPG-esque, where you are this police officer, and every chapter basically starts very normally. You're just like a police officer, you're checking out a case, and it kind of devolves into this, okay, we're in this weird alternate dimension fighting these huge chimeras, and you know, you have to do things like you can pick a can off the ground and put it in a trash can. You'll get, you know, points for it.
Yep.
You can, you know, find people who are infected by this this disease and cure them of it. So there's a lot of other aspects to this game other than just the combat, which is kind of interesting, and it's something that's very un-Platinum-esque. But I think people are going to be happy with how it turns out.
Have you been able to play it in co-op yet?
I have not.
I heard that it makes it more difficult, so I'm really interested in trying it in single player versus co-op to see if that's actually true, because usually you play a game co-op and it makes it significantly easier.
Yeah.
But I guess the whole mechanic of being attached does the complete opposite for this game.
Right.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what value I would have playing co-op, just because the thing that makes it unique is the ability to control two things at once.
Yeah.
And like your individual character, like I said, it doesn't have very many combos or ways to diversify what they do in combat. It's kind of just mashing one button.
So it might be too simplistic in co-op, you think?
Yeah. I'm going to translate what you just said, and in much more simpler terms, because I know you. What you're actually saying is anyone you play with will hold you back. Seriously. No, seriously. You're awesome. You're a very, very humble man. I will say it for you. You are damn good at video games. If I was like, Mitchell, you want to play this together? You'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'll be like, I can hit the dog too. And you're like, get away from me, Brian.
The Devil May Cry devs complimented him on his Devil May Cry 5 gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
He's good.
That was a really cool moment.
Maybe a highlight of your career?
One of them.
Absolutely. When's this game out?
August 30th.
Thank you, Casey, because I did
welcome.
not have an answer.
Oh wow, that is
Yeah,
that's
it's
incredibly
really soon,
It is very soon.
Yeah.
And they announced this game pretty late too. You know,
Yeah.
given how much stuff is in this game, the different gameplay systems, and it looks really polished, obviously, because it's basically done.
Do you guys feel like this is going to be the beginning of a franchise? I mean, we have what, almost 3 Bayonettas?
Almost 3.
But that's unusual for them.
2 in a
right?
teaser
It's not
trailer.
like- it's not like Platinum did Wonderful 102 and
No.
Yeah, I think it
Old Man
really
World.
just depends on how well it does.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of Platinum one-offs at this point that haven't spawned a series. I still want to see Metal Gear Rising 2.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a franchise in a tricky spot.
Yeah.
My hope with that is that, you know, Konami puts out some collections, they return that goodwill for having their names near that franchise, and then we start getting sequels.
But
and
they
stuff.
could, I mean, like, that's, it's a good note, right? That's a place to go with Metal Gear without Kojima is,
Yeah.
we had this separate title that was pretty damn fun.
As for Wonderful 101, if they put it on Switch, they would outsell the Wii U version in a week.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they could start talking sequels. You know, that's kind of where we are. That was just a rough place to book games.
So really quick, I heard in Astral Chain there are a lot of cats and toilets. What's up? Please tell me.
Like
more.
at the same time?
No, just separately. But they're just two odd things.
said
Pear's
cats
looking
and
at me like I'm
toilets?
crazy.
She said cats and toilets.
Cats
Yes,
and
Pear.
toilets.
I could tell you, but do you really want me to spoil the main plot twists of Astral? No, I'm just kidding. No, there's some really cool.
You had me.
There's some really cool side quests involving the cat, and the toilets are actually part of like this secret kind of side quest where if you like go off the beaten path, you'll find like an outhouse and you'll get some toilet paper from it, and then you take that toilet paper back to the police station, and there's a ghost that's apparently stuck in a toilet stall that just needs toilet paper.
that a
And-
callback
But
to
that's the
Majora's
Legend
Mask?
of Zelda.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a hand in the toilet. With
Yeah,
getting
and he's
toilet
like paper, and then you have to bring him a deed to a location that you purchased.
Oh,
and he
wow.
uses the
Even
deed.
Skyward Sword had it.
I didn't even know that was a reference to something.
So weird. Pear, can you translate cats and toilets in German?
Katzentoiletten. Katzenklo.
That's not true.
Katzenklo is a cat toilet. Katzenklo.
Katzenklo is a cat toilet?
Yeah.
I don't understand your language,
Katzenklo.
man. It does not make sense.
So easy.
Well, Mitchell, thank you so much for talking to us about Astral
no
Chain.
problem, anytime.
Now I wanted to move over to talk about the Indie World livestream, where we saw, I mean, it was a laundry list of indie games that was announced, and we got to see new trailers of a lot of the stuff that was announced at E3 and previously. Thank you so much for putting together that list, because it was a lot. And we also got 2 surprise It's Out Now, which is Super Hot and Hotline Miami collection. Super Hot, I know, is a lot of our favorite. A lot of us like Super Hot. Have any of you been able to play it?
I haven't played the Switch version yet. I did read our review for it, which made me very excited. It's $24.99, so I was a little hesitant because it's a kind of short game. I also I own multiple VR devices, and so for me, that's not the place I would go to for it.
Yeah.
But like everything else on Switch, it's not really about being the best place to play, but more about having the option to play
So
it anywhere.
how do you play it? I have not. Obviously, Super Hot didn't start as a VR game.
Right. It was a
but like
browser
it's
game.
basically now everybody knows it as a VR game because it's so unique that when you move your body, time forwards. Like your enemies are frozen in time until you move yourself, and you can like grab bullets out of the air. But when you do it, they travel and they can hit you. Like, how do you do that on the Switch now? Like,
I mean,
such different setup.
It's definitely missing the hook of like the immersion angle of it, but it's still a pretty badass action game.
Same kind of puzzle idea.
Yeah, I mean, I played Super Hot on PC well before I played it on VR,
Yeah.
obviously, and that game is still amazing. Just as a first-person shooter where time only moves as you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an amazing fit on the Switch. And actually, Destin Legary told me that he was so glad that he finally had a game to download on the Switch because he's really into Super Hot and he wanted to play it on the plane.
He came up to me too right before we came on here. He's like,
Yeah.
Super Hot available now. And
Yeah, 2 meat swords in his hand. And
He doesn't have games to download on the Switch. He used to listen to Nintendo Voice Chat. We talk about games every
right.
single week. It's
There's
ridiculous.
lots of games.
every Thursday at
I
3
did
p.m.
play.
on IGN.com.
That's right. I did play a bunch of Hotline Miami, which I am so happy to have on a portable again. To me, that game and Vita just went hand in hand. On a television, it's really frustrating to spend a Saturday afternoon dying over and over and restarting over and over and just like consuming the entire living room. On a handheld while you're like watching a TV show or doing something else, this is like such a perfect place for this game. It's a top-down, hyper-violent, hack and slash shooting game where you basically burst into rooms and just tear people apart. And it's just like you're fighting gangsters, and they have animal masks. It's like super stylish. I really, really love this game, and it's got this very sort of one more round, because you'll die a lot.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah, awesome soundtrack.
Did you guys see the tweet from Devolver Digital about why Hotline Miami would never be on the Switch?
No.
They said that it would never be on the Switch because apparently Miyamoto hated the music, and then when this was announced, they posted another tweet that said like Miyamoto changed his mind.
Wow.
I wonder how much truth there is to that.
I can't imagine Miyamoto hating anything.
It might have been one of those hearsay stories.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's funny.
That's really cool, yeah.
So there were a ton of other games talked about during this presentation. Mitchell, what game are you most looking forward to?
There was a game that had like this really cool voxel style. I think it was called The Tourist.
Yes.
And
yeah, that's playable here, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
we should
cool.
get you over there.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that looked really, really cool. It had like a good mix of like dungeon exploring, and like there was a moment where you're like walking along like a boardwalk almost, and there were like all these crazy stores. He goes inside and he starts playing an arcade game. You can see it right here. And the dude is just wearing the most awesome Hawaiian shirt. He's got this
it is
Sam
Little
Claiborne
Max.
mustache.
Yeah, it's Little Max Scoville.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that game looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm really into the art direction in this game. It feels like a little Minecrafty, but also a little 3D dot game Heroes.
Yeah.
The overworld is kind of like sparse and minimalist, and it's also like fun and goofy. So I don't really know how those are going to jive, but I'm really intrigued in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. This was a surprise, so I'm interested in this one.
I wanted to bring up Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yes.
Sure. That was super unexpected. I mean,
Yep.
I always assumed it would be a Microsoft exclusive, and it even says from Microsoft Studios in the presentation. And now we're getting it on the Switch.
Yep.
I'm excited because that was a game that I just never played, and it's
Yep.
always been one of those games. It's like, man, I would really like that. And now it's coming on the Switch, so I have no excuse.
Yeah. I have this game on Xbox. I have this game on Game Pass. I love this game. I'm going to play this game again on Switch because Metroidvanias on a handheld just fit. It just works. I was joking about this with Zach Ryan the other day, but we needed to make a list at IGN of like the top 50 Metroidvanias on Switch. Because there's probably at least
top
50 of them
now. Yeah, that's crazy.
There are so many.
Yeah,
and the game. Finish it up and say Hollow Knight #1.
Yeah. Well, so this is up there now with Super Lucky Tale and Cuphead in terms of previously Microsoft exclusives that are now just like loaned out to Nintendo. Their relationship is getting better.
Banjo-Kazooie as characters, obviously, in Smash.
I feel like we're going to get a Forza game on Switch one day.
Well,
Seriously.
Xbox has reiterated
Mario
that they
Forza?
want
Master Chief and Smash.
Yeah.
That would be
Never know.
awesome.
Yeah.
But Xbox has reiterated that they want the Game Pass to be on other consoles.
I know.
So, are we going to get an Xbox Game Pass on the Switch?
I feel like that's going to be one of those things where like Nintendo's like, hey, that's pushing it. You can't just launch Game Pass on Switch. That's like 200 games.
Well, that's about all the time we have to talk about the Nintendo Switch games and Astral Chain and everything else. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it right here. We'll be right back.
Fact. IGN is better at video games than all other outlets.
All video games. Who's a good boy?
We're also the best at being incredibly humble.
I just on you, kid.
I got
Yes! Introducing the all-new Up Nudes! Up Nudes' new and improved recipe is chock full of lists, let's plays, unboxings, special guests, goofs, guffaws, and other content too stupid for regular weekdays.
Like some sort of color-changing reptile stripper man. I'm doing it. Don't touch it. What's wrong with you? Get corn snack. Game sucks. Bring it back.
Up at Noon, weekends on IGN and YouTube.
Welcome back to IGN at Gamescom now. Things are sort of winding down here, but I figured before we go, we should just check in with all of you guys and see how you're doing. First of all, how are you?
We're great. I feel amazing. How about you guys?
I got 8 hours of sleep last night, so that's a first.
That's a record.
Oh, I feel like I slept a lot, but
You don't
my
have to
body
boast
wants
about
more.
So real quick, what are your guys' favorite things that we saw this year? Duggan?
Ooh, for me, it's got to be the Eternal Cylinder. Man, it's a wacky game. The developer made a game called Xenoclash. It's like a fever dream that came out in like 2009. So he's spending a lot of time on this, but it's essentially like the never-ending story. But instead of black nothingness, it's a giant rolling pin.
Nice.
And yeah, you run away from it. You mutate. It's a little bit like Jeremy said. It's like Spore on drugs, and I think that's a perfect
Spore on drugs. I like it. Sid, what about you?
I think it's less of a game that I played and more, I'm excited that Modern Warfare is on the show floor. Besides the alpha starting, that was like the first time that people got their hands on it, and I think that's really exciting because I think it's incredible, and I want more people to play.
Nintendo Switch Lite. I got to see it in person. I've always been like an old school Nintendo handheld guy. It's sort of like a brand new Game Boy. Comes out the same day as the new Zelda game. All of my magical favorite things are coming together.
I love it. It's getting, that's the good stuff about Gamescom is you get to see brand new things and you get to see things that you know about, but you get to see them in person.
Yep.
I got to play Witcher on Switch. That's crazy. That shouldn't work. That's black magic. I don't know how they did that, but I'm dying to get my hands on that when it finally comes out. Anyway, like I said, we are winding things down here. This is not the last day of Gamescom. We actually have an award show tomorrow that is happening at 3:30 p.m. German time, 6:30 in the morning Pacific time if you're watching back home in sweet California. But yeah, we'll be around for that, and I think that's it. I think we're done for today.
Yeah.
I think that's the end of the day.
We were really good.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job.
Good job,
So anyway, on behalf of all of us, thank you for watching, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow.